6, time for our BJC Healthcare Difference Maker. The Cardinals starting pitching, Brad, has been awesome, and Kyle Gibson's been that and more tonight.
5 strong so far for Kyle Gibson. 6 strikeouts in those 5 innings, and just keeping these Reds off balance. I think he's done such a nice job of using his fastball effectively to set up that secondary stuff. Just no comfortable at-bats against Kyle Gibson thus far.
Last 6 games for the Cardinals rotation, a 138 earned run average. That will play. As you see the line score, fly ball well hit to right. That breaks up the no-hit big.
If you want to start an argument at a sporting event, whether it's in the stands, on the field, or in the press box, the surest way is to ask somebody, is the announcer jinx real? If someone misses a free throw, the announcer just said his percentage, they blame the announcer. If a kicker misses a field goal after the announcer just said how many in a row he made, you blame the announcer. And most of all, at a baseball game, you always blame the announcer if he mentions no hitter and then a hit is given up. Welcome to Crafting the Call. I'm Josh Suchon with the Albuquerque Isotopes. And in this episode, we are going to put to bed the question, is the announcer jinx real?
And I'm Jesse Goldberg-Strassler with the Lansing Lugnuts. And we will not put to bed people blaming the announcer.
Well, just in case people wanted to know, yes, there are T-shirts that indicate what is actually real. You cannot jinx a no-hitter.
That's the whole subject for our episode. But yeah, Josh, we made these. You have not had the opportunity, correct?
Yes, I must admit, I feel like I need to keep the camera right where it is because I believe that you cannot jinx a no-hitter, but I should not. It says I've tried, and I have not called a no-hitter. I've witnessed numerous no-hitters, but in my 12 years with the Isotopes and my 16-something years as a broadcaster, I've yet to call a no-hitter in my career.
I always come back to this. This is my central thesis. We can't jinx a no-hitter because if we could, that would make us very, very powerful and render side sessions and batting practice moot. Why would a player ever practice if the broadcaster had the ability to decide whether you were going to strike out or hit safely? But Josh, I have tried. I very much have. And so I would like to take you back to the long ago land of 2013, back when I was a younger and faker sounding broadcaster, when my squad 3 times faced getting no hit in the final inning.
All right, let's listen to how Jesse called it. What year was this?
This was 2013.
Lansing has no hits, and the Lugnuts are down to their very last strike. Kyle Scaple's glove on his left hip now holds it out in front of his face, has his sign, his pitch. Fuenmauer grounds one down to shortstop. Medrano waits, plays, throws to first, and this one's in the books. Kyle Scaple has tossed a 7-inning no-hitter. South Bend defeats Lansing 1-0 in game 1 of a doubleheader. That is back-to-back sterling plays made by Bowling Green outfielders. They are 2 outs away from the no-hitter. The count 1-2. The pitch is on its way. There's a swing and a miss. The Bowling Green Hot Rods have no hit the Lansing Lugnuts. The final score, the Hot Rods 14, the Lansing Lugnuts 1. 3-2 on Pony Pompey. Here it comes. He swings and hits it high in the air, but to shallow right field. Gabby Guerrero is in. He squeezes, and the Lugnuts are down to their very last out. Victor Sanchez has recorded 26 outs of a no-hitter so far, now looking for number 27. The batter is Dwight Smith Jr. 0 for 3. Pop out to second, grounding out to second and to third. First pitch. Called strike 1, going right back to the off speed. 0 runs on 0 hits and 1 error for Lansing. 1 run, 4 hits, 2 errors for Clinton. The 0-1. There's a swing and a pop up in the infield, and this should do it. First baseman Art is there. He makes the catch, and Victor Sanchez has tossed a 9-inning no-hitter. They surround him and jump around to the right side of the infield. The Clinton Lumber Kings have defeated the Lansing Lugnuts 1-0 tonight. And the Lumber Kings toss their first no-hitter since last year. Meanwhile, the Lugnuts get no hit for a third time this season.
All right, Jesse, break down your thoughts listening to yourself some 12 years ago.
I went back and I listened to the final inning of each of these. One, the 7th inning, the other two, the 9th inning. And a couple of things struck me. The first thing was, in each of those frames, I really only mentioned no-hitter or in whatever capacity once or twice. So the very first one, it was the Lugnuts don't have any hits. And this is generally how the broadcaster goes through it. This many runs, this many hits for the other team, this many hits, this many runs for us. Yeah, no hits. We just get that up there in the column. And then for the second one, I got a little bit more comfortable with saying no-hitter. And this is a no-hitter. This is how close they are. And by the third one, I actually, in looking back at it, and you can ask any broadcaster, and sometimes it makes you cringe to listen back to your old work, I appreciate that I said that he has recorded 26 outs, 26 of 27, right, on his way to a no-hitter. And whatever words that I used, I appreciated how I put that. That felt very journalistic.
The score stood out to me, 1-0, 14-1, and again 1-0, because especially when it's 1-0, yes, this is a potential no-hitter. We're also one swing of the bat away from a tie ball game, right? So there's an extra level of drama that is involved in a 1-0 game as opposed to the 14-1 game. I think all of these are really good, Jesse. I don't think that your voice has changed as much as you think it has changed.
It's all about naturalness and like striving to sound like a more natural person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. How has your philosophy changed, if any, since then, since 12 years ago?
It's not philosophy as much as it is I've lightened up. And I remember when the most recent no-hitter that I called, and you and I broke this down last year, and I told you something that really helped me with it was looking over at my broadcast partner and seeing how much he was enjoying the experience. And that really is part of the pleasure of being at a game where there's a no-hitter as a possibility, or perfect game as a possibility, a cycle, whatever great event that there is. You should enjoy this. You should go, I love baseball, and this is one of the reasons why I love it. And so now, over the course of these years, I think that I would take so much joy in the potential of seeing a no-hitter, and how cool is this?
I think that's where getting into describing what the dugouts are doing.
Yes.
Whether the players are leaning over the railing, whether anybody is sitting down, what the fans are starting to do, just noticing these nervous tics that, that people start to get, how often they start twitching themselves because of their nervous energy. I think those are the fun things to describe.
Yeah. It gets you outside of yourself because, quite frankly, I'm nervous in calling it. I'm trying to find the right words. And this is still a problem that pops up that I try to conquer, but I'm trying not to be too perfect because I so want to make sure that I'm delivering the perfect call for this. I think that ability, like Vin Scully showed with Sandy Koufax, to widen the lens and look at Sandy and get inside his mind and look at the bullpens and look at the dugout, I think that's enormously important for a broadcaster.
Do you have a theory on when the announcer jinx really started to become a popular thing for people to complain about?
Yes, although we wouldn't have known it at the time because complaints would have happened locally instead of, let's say, on social media or on TV. But I've done a lot of reading with Red Barber and Mel Allen, and we're going to go right back into the 1940s. When a pitcher was throwing a no-hitter, the superstition was that the teammates would leave that pitcher alone on the bench. And this superstition was brought up into the press box, and Red Barber points his finger right at Mel Allen and points his finger right at the broadcasters who are buddy-buddy with the players. This never pervaded the press box before that. The press is separate. The fans are separate. This is just the players on the bench, everyone trying to leave the starting pitcher alone. But once that started at the press box, then that was contagious and that spread to the fans. So as we say, you can't jinx a no-hitter, and people point their fingers at broadcasters, I would argue there are fans that feel the same way, and that there are people in the stand saying, don't mention it, don't talk about it. All the while others are going, is there a no-hitter? Can I say this? It has gone around to everybody. And that's why I love that you and I are confronting this right now. But because we're broadcasters, and because we've got the words that people can clip and watch forever, the second that you, like Chip Carey, says it and suddenly it's gone, then that's going to live a lot longer than if, let's say, Joe said something in the upper deck.
So I love your history and the way that you brought that in, because in my mind, I would have thought it would be late 80s, early 90s, when more and more people had satellite dishes and could watch games. Maybe when more and more national games started to get aired on ESPN. And definitely by the time that you got to DirecTV and things like MLB extra innings packages, I feel like just the quantity of games made it easier to clip these moments in time. Whereas before, there just wasn't as many games on TV. And so literally, as the radio announcer, you had to say he's got a no-hitter, or else why else would people keep listening to you?
And I'm saying people didn't say it. If you're Red Barber, you said it. If you were Vin Scully, you figured things out. But there were broadcasters who very much, and I think that they passed on that tradition to the folks that came after them. And so we are all following something that's pretty old and pretty cemented. And if you ask the old pros, the old journalists, or the old broadcasters, I think that you'd get just as vivid of an argument as you would if you asked folks of the new school.
All right. Well, speaking of new school, let's get into some recent no-hitters, starting off with one from last year.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see how people are confronting it right now. And here's a broadcaster you and I know very well.
Porter Hodge on the mound, 12-0. Cubs lead. Pirates. No runs, no hits, and one error.
A very nice rookie year. $1.80 ERA.
Grounder to short. Buehrle to first. On away. Last time we were in this territory, go back to 2021 against the Dodgers. Combined no-no. Zach Davies, Andrew Chapin, Ryan Tepera, and Craig Kimbrell.
Kimbrell had no idea. You see him shaking his head there. Tepera said, "You know what just happened?" And Kimbrell's like, "I have no clue, man."
Combined no-hitter through 8 1/3. Shota Imanaga, 7. Nate Pearson, 1. And here's Porter Hodge. The 0-2 pitch. It just short. Dansby to first. 2 away. Everybody on their feet. Pirates not only down to their final out, but Porter Hodge down to his final strike. The 1-2. Grounder to short. Dansby to first. There it is. No hitter. Shota Imanaga, Nate Pearson, Porter Hodge. A combined no-no.
Jesse. I have a couple of thoughts about when it's a blowout and when it's a combined no-hitter, that it doesn't have the same level of gravitas that it does when it's one pitcher who's gone 9 innings, and you're thinking about his pitch total and how tired he is and just the look on his face, the exhaustion that he might feel. And so no-hitters are fun no matter how many people are involved and how many innings they are. 7 innings in the minors, has to be 9 innings in the major leagues. I think that when it comes to TV, and you can put that graphic box up, you can tell the story. And we're going to listen to Alex here in a moment give his philosophy, because I just wanted to keep this episode moving in terms of this is how he handled the 9th inning.
The graphic took care of no-hitter. If you're watching, you can see it. Also, here's a video package of the last time that we threw a no-hitter. It, to my mind, it is dispensing with the tension. And I can hear Alex's smile.
Mm-hmm.
And so when it's the final out, that his words are, there it is. It's just so nice and simple.
Yeah. So again, in order to keep this episode moving, I just wanted to do the 9th inning. But now let's go back, because not too long after this no-hitter, Alex was on a podcast and he got into more of the details about what it was like inside the broadcast booth. So let's get right into hearing exactly how Alex approached it in his own words.
If you remember the game with the Cubs Pirates, they actually had a hit for the Pirates called in the first inning, and they reversed that in the third. It wasn't a hit. It was most definitely an error. I had it as an error on my score sheet in the first inning, but for the first 2.5 innings, it was no runs, 1 hit, no errors for the Pirates. And then I think it changed around the 4th, and it really hit me after the 5th, or I think it was going into the 6th. I go and be like, Cubs leading 9-0, Pirates, no runs, no hits, no errors. And then I look at JD, I'm like, that's right. It got overturned. There's a no-hitter going on. So at the end of that half inning, I look at JD. I'm like, JD, you're the 15-year big league veteran. I know some people don't want to say no-hitter. I know broadcasters always want to say no-hitter. This is your booth. I'm just sitting in it. How do you want to go about it? He says, say it to your heart's content. I will go in. I will say no hitter, no hitter, no hitter, no hitter, no hitter if you really want me to. I said, nope, that's all I needed to hear. So we just went about it.
Yeah. To curse or not to curse? That is the question.
Exactly. To lean in or not to lean in. And I was creative about it. I mean, I wasn't flaunting it in front of people's faces like, oh my goodness, the Cubs have a no hitter. Like, you find ways to describe it. It's like, Pirates, no runs, no hits, no errors. Pirates hitless through 6. Shota Imanaga, 7 no-hit innings. Hasn't allowed a hit in 7 1/3. Like, you don't have to say the words no-hitter. You can find different ways to describe it. You just have to trust yourself with that. I mean, I've been involved in a lot of baseball games that have had no-hitters through 7 and 8 that haven't quite finished it out. You just find different ways to describe it.
I do think that from a philosophical standpoint, it's fascinating how many of us feel like, well, as long as I don't use the word no-hitter, it's okay to say that a no-hitter is taking place, right? And it's just this acknowledgement of, look, I've heard it from our clubby has told me many times from players who are saying something along the lines of, why is Josh jinxing this no-hitter? Doesn't he understand, right? So you're aware that the different things that happen. I am still not going to change my philosophy. If I ever get an opportunity to, I'm going to say he's got a no-hitter going through 7 innings. He's got a no-hitter through 8 innings. I don't want to keep saying the same thing over and over again, because I believe that there's different ways that you use words and vocabulary in order to set things up. But nonetheless, it's really easy to get in your own head, Jesse, knowing that there's people who take this so seriously that they're going to be upset if you don't say things in a certain way for them.
The last no-hitter I've called 6, and my team is 3-3 in no-hitters. The last no-hitter that I called, it was my team no-hitting the other team. And the next day, I interviewed the starting pitcher from that game for our pregame show. And he said to me after the interview, so, did you say it? And I said, what do you think? Do you want to take a guess? And he goes, you didn't say it. And I said, I said it. And I said it with 1 out to go. And he clapped his hands together and he said, that makes it sweeter. Because yes, it's so similar to Macbeth with theater people, the Scottish play. You can walk your way up to the line, but it's the word no-hitter that's the word of doom. And the players, the coaches, there really is this feeling within the clubhouse. As long as you don't say that, which becomes this unspoken code between us, right? That, hey, you can say that they have no hits. You can say that here's what's under the column, or all the different ways that you can say it. Just don't taunt fate. It's fascinating. It's like an inside gag.
So I remember when I lived in Los Angeles and did the Dodgers pre and post game show, and there was within a fairly short amount of time, the Dodgers threw a no hitter and the Angels threw a no hitter, and Vin Scully always said no hitter, and the Angels announcer at the time, Victor Rojas, whose dad played in the major leagues and grew up in clubhouses, he refused to say it. So it was an interesting study in contrast. And I think that because Vin is the greatest and because Vin called the most no hitters, I've got Vin Scully on my side. So if anyone ever starts to question me, I just go, look, Vin was the greatest and he called more no-hitters than anybody else, and he always said no-hitter. So that's good enough for me.
I want to get to Vin. I want to see a Vin. But first, I just want to go back to Alex. When the screen says no-hitter on it, it feels different than if you're not on TV, if you're calling it on radio, so all that you have is your voice. When there's nothing up there on the screen to let anyone know that there's no hitter going on. I just think that punctures the tension just a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, speaking of the master, let's get to the master, Vin Scully, when Clayton Kershaw threw his no-hitter.
To be in. And look at the cave. I mean, Clayton's a bright young man. He's well aware of Sandy Koufax, and he is certainly compared to the great left-hander. He saw Josh Beckett pitch his no-hitter in Philadelphia. On the scoreboard, it's very obvious if you were sitting in the Dodger dugout, you look out and there it is, no runs, no hits. So now it's his moment. What he does with it after 101 pitches, we are delighted to share the moment with you. And now, if you don't mind, I'm going to sit back and watch it with you. High fly ball to shallow right. Gordon out. Puig is there. And there is one out to go. One miserable, measly out. And now one strike away. Hang in there, Ellen. Hang in there. Your mouth has to be dry. Your throat has to be dry. Curveball, pop foul. AJ coming over, no play. Now it's going to run through a brick wall to catch that thing if he could. Got it. He's done it. Clayton Kershaw pitches a no-hitter, a career high 15 strikeouts. And then when it's all said and done, he'll escape all the excitement and the noise and talk about a dream come true with his wife, Ellen. Big moment in a young life.
What Vin gets to his core is the humanity of it. That this is, to go back into, it's a shared experience. We are all watching together. We all care together. And that's what this is throughout. From the start, where it's like, all right, let's see what happens. And right all the way through, one out away, one strike away. The comment about AJ Ellis would run through a brick wall and his wife's, like, her mouth is dry. Every comment of this is a comment about this shared humane experience, which just cuts to the heart of the matter at the core. Your thoughts?
That line, hang in there, Ellen, that is just the ultimate, just Vin as grandfather, right? I feel like Vin is looking at Ellen, that's Clayton Kershaw's wife, like she is his granddaughter. Just hang in there, Ellen, right? I love the one measly, miserable out. It's the ultimate in Vin poetry. Look, this is late in Vin's career. This is not his last year, but it's close to the end of his career. So he doesn't have, you can hear in his voice that, it's not quite as strong. But I imagine that this is Vin just totally looking at the screen, totally looking at the monitor. And let's credit the Dodgers director, the cinematography, the way that they're panning, the strikeouts, the Ks, how they go to the scoreboard with 0 and then how it just fades. And I think it goes to show how much you can tell a story cinematically with pictures and images and graphics in addition to your words. And then when Vin brings it all together with his words, he's not pounding it over your head. But like you said, Jesse, it's what we're all feeling and experiencing.
That he starts with Kershaw is aware of Sandy Koufax. And then here's Josh Beckett. Here's the shot of Beckett. And it's just such a beautiful tip of the cap to the past. And here's what was going on. And then we are all waiting to see, can he do it? Which really, that's what a no-hit broadcast, in a sense, should be about. It's not about, can the broadcaster jinx? Should the broadcaster be worried about that? It is all of us watching the pitcher to say, can this pitcher pull this off? And if there's a perfect game, can the pitcher and the defense pull this off? And for that moment, it transports us back to, we are watching, we do not know what is going to happen. Here's the pitch.
All right, let's get into another one. And I think this is great to compare and contrast Vin Scully with Ken Hawk Harrelson.
The 2-2 pitch. Line drive. Call your sons, call your daughters, call your friends, call your neighbors. Mark Buehrle has a perfect game going to the ninth. That ball hit deep into left center field. Wise back. Makes the catch.
What a play!
Wade Wise makes the catch. What a play by Wise. Mercy. A great catch by Dwayne Wise.
As Wise goes back into the wall, knowing he has no room to spare, he goes up over the wall and then juggles it before corralling it. What a play by Wise.
Under the circumstances, one of the greatest catches I have ever seen in 50 years in this game. He gone. One to go. Alexei! Yes! 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 History!
Totally different contrasts, but I want to start, Jesse, with the call your friends, call your neighbor, call your sons, call your daughters, right? As the eighth inning ends, right? And I want to get your immediate thoughts on that first.
So Hawk is the fan in the booth, whereas Vin is the poet in the booth. And Hawk really is that guy caring every ounce of his being about the team. And that is exactly what he would do if he was on his living room couch and he was watching the game with a drink, and he absolutely would be shouting for everybody, hey, you got to know what's going on. It is the human of Hawk. And then that leads into the ninth, where that is him reacting to everything. There's nothing about him being in front of things. That, Josh, is the only bit of Hawk that I would argue is he's in front of it, because he's saying, we got to be ready for this bottom of the ninth inning.
Yeah.
Or top of the ninth.
Yeah, no, I loved it a lot, because I think that, and again, this is me overthinking it, knowing how serious that people take these things. It's almost like, I know this is going to sound absurd, but it's almost like if you do say the phrase no hitter, then there's only like a 15 to 30 second window in which you can possibly jinx it, right? But if you say it at the end of an inning, and then there's a commercial break, and then the White Sox have to bat, and then they come back out, well, there's no such thing as like a jinx from something that you said, 10 minutes ago, right? So it almost becomes like these different ways that you try to justify in yourself. Well, I didn't really jinx it because it was 10 minutes later when the hit happened compared to like when I said the phrase. But I love at the end of 7, at the end of 8, like being able to go into a commercial break and being able to say, this is what he's done. This is what's left to accomplish. And with the idea of, don't go anywhere. Tell people you got to watch this. That's the whole point of why we're alive and watch sports, is to tell people something exciting is going on. Like, let's watch it together.
This is what the broadcasters who don't say a no-hitter, who ignore it entirely and are calling a normal game, this is what they miss. Because there is something important going on that needs to be drawn attention to. And this is how you draw attention to it.
Yeah. I mean, fundamentally in the ninth inning, Hawk is Hawk, right? I mean, he just, on the last out, he just says, Alexei! And then he screams, yes. And then history, and that's about it, right?
Well, that's why I say he is the reactor.
Mm-hmm.
Vin is out in front. Vin is setting the stage and letting things happen. And then when things happen, then Vin sits back. So Vin and Hawk are sitting back and leaning forward at different times.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why I love like what we do on Crafting the Call, is just to compare and contrast this. And look, there's some people who are going to feel like you absolutely have to do it this way or that way. And, you know, I like that. I don't want every broadcast to sound the same.
You know,
whenever I hear someone who's trying to sound like Vin, I'm like, no, you got to be yourself. It's the first thing that Vin always told young broadcasters: be yourself. You have to be yourself. So I like that there's different styles and philosophies, and then you kind of mold that and you think about that with yourself, or maybe even what you think as an audience member of who you'd rather listen to if given the opportunity. And, you know, that's the whole point of sports and broadcasting and journalism and writing.
What both of them have in common, what Vin and Hawk have in common, though, is neither one is telling you something that the screen is showing so it becomes redundant. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Neither one is saying anything redundant. Both of them are adding to the picture. If you have either of these games on mute, you are missing something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. No, that's a really good point. Yeah. All right. So those were all no-hitters that were called from a local announcer's perspective. Now let's get into a national broadcast where there's more people watching and certainly more people potentially criticizing every word you might say.
Right back to a nice play. And Bray is out of the inning. So it's back on Roy watch. 6 outs away from a no-hitter in game 1 of the NLDS. Stay with us. Well, the Philadelphia Phillies have had 10 no-hitters in their history, including Roy Halladay's perfect game against the Florida Marlins on May 29th in Miami.
Struck out 11 on that occasion. Just a brilliant performance, but honestly, Brian, I don't know that his stuff's any better than it is tonight. He has been brilliant tonight.
Johnny Gomes leads off for the Reds.
Everything from a 94 fastball to a 79 changeup, speed-wise, and everything in between with his cutter and slider. Well, a breaking ball.
Well, 1968 is officially known as the year of the pitcher. This was kind of the reincarnation of the year of the pitcher with 5 no-hitters this year. Halladay with one of 2 perfect games this season. And down goes Gomes. They'll have to secure it at first, no problem. 5 outs away from a no-hitter. Well, the longest no-hitter since Jim Lomborg of the Boston Red Sox. Went 7 2/3 against the St. Louis Cardinals. That was in game 2 of the '67 World Series. Of course, the last no-hitter in postseason play, Don Larsen, the most famous of the no-hitters. That was in '56. Halladay 4 outs away. 2 gone to the 8th. Here's Stubbs. Strike.
He's only thrown 93 pitches.
And if you're just joining us, you're here at just the right time. Roy Halladay, 8 no-hit innings. We'd love to show you Roy Halladay in the dugout, but talk about being iced. He ices himself. He goes underneath into the clubhouse. That's his normal routine, though. Yeah. He makes it easy on the rest of the players.
He may be working out. I mean, this guy is so dedicated to his regimen between starts. He may be getting a head start on that somewhere.
So it's Bill Brave. Ibanez. Orlando Cabrera will settle, make the catch, and here we go to the 9th. Roy Halladay, 3 outs away from a no-hitter in the postseason. Four to nothing, the Phillies. The story, Roy Halladay. And history on the line here in Philadelphia. All zeros. 8 no-hit innings for Halladay at his first postseason start. Don Larsen, he's looking for some company here tonight. Game 5 of the 56 World Series through the perfect game, beating the Brooklyn Dodgers. Strike one. That has been the story all night for Halladay as he gets ahead of Ramon Hernandez in the ninth.
Big shocker there, getting ahead in the count. Only 3 3-ball counts all night.
In the air, Chase Utley. Nothing is routine at this point. Utley makes a catch. One gone.
The only thing standing right now between Halladay and another perfect game was a walk back in the 5th inning.
Well, in the history of Major League Baseball, there have been 4 pitchers to throw 2 no-hitters in the same season, at least 2. Nolan Ryan is the last, 1973 with the Angels. Strike.
They've tried stepping out on him, waiting him out. Nothing has thrown Roy Halladay off his game tonight.
Pitch number 100 on the way from Halladay. In the air. Over is Valdez with room. 2 outs. The Reds' last hope, Brandon Phillips. And one more piece to the puzzle for Roy Halladay.
And he's a first pitch ambush hitter if he delivers a fastball strike.
Gave him a fastball. Phillips took it.
Probably the best pitch he will get to hit this at bat.
Halladay struck him out in the 4th.
Can't even begin to tell you how loud it is here, folks.
Halladay is 1 strike away. The 0-2. A bouncer. Ruiz. In time! Roy Halladay has thrown a no-hitter.
There for a while, I was trying to keep track of the number of times that Brian Anderson said the words no-hitter. And then I just couldn't keep track because he just kept saying it, right? And I think that Brian Anderson was fabulous. So was Joe Simpson, the analyst that we heard here. You know, you had everything. You had the flashback. You had the video. You had the last time that somebody has thrown 2 no-hitters in the same season, postseason no-hitters. If you didn't know any better, you would think that Brian Anderson's trying to jinx it, but he's not. He's doing his job. He's putting it into perspective. And again, when we get into these ridiculous psychological things that we start to overthink about ourselves as broadcasters, Jesse, it's almost like the more that he said it, the more it gave him the license to keep using the phrase no-hitter because he just kept coming at you with it, right? And and I think it worked great. And this is the ultimate example. If anyone ever says that an announcer can jinx it, I'm going to always point to this because, seriously, I lost track of how many times Brian Anderson said no-hitter over the last 3 innings of this game.
This felt like a broadcast that had never heard of such a thing as a no-hitter jinx.
Great point.
This felt like a broadcaster that was not something that exists because it is Brian working with producer and here's your graphic and here's everything. This was journalistically going, all right, let's bring this back to Jim Lundborg. Let's talk about all the no-hitters that have happened this season. Let's tell you about Don Larsen, even when he finishes. And that is a difficult final out. And Anderson's call is Roy Halladay has thrown a no-hitter. It doesn't rise to any levels of greatness. It just is, look, here's what happened. I would also argue that Joe Simpson saying can't even begin to tell you how loud it is was one of the few human moments of the call. It wasn't a very human call. But when Brian said nothing is routine at this point on the pop out to second, that's brilliant. That starts to get at it. But other than that, this is a pretty cut and dried when they're going to the middle of the 8th inning. No words, right? He gets the final out, strikeout, and there's no words to send it to break. It's the atmosphere that carries you off.
I'm not a big fan of that not saying anything going into break. I still want to hear something. So that would be my only criticism. That's just my own philosophy. I still want to hear something. I want to hear anything. 3 outs away, the score, like anything. I just want to hear something. The other thing that struck me, though, when it comes to the cutaway shots of the crowd, there was a couple of times when you saw people that are, kind of doing like these things, but overwhelmingly, you just saw people with their white towels, smiling, laughing, cheering, clapping their hands. And it was almost like Joe Simpson said that it was loud. I didn't get the sense that there was tension in the ballpark. It felt like a party at the ballpark. It was almost like everybody in the ballpark was like, yes, we know he's going to throw it. You cannot touch him. He's Roy Halladay. There's nothing that you can do to prevent what is about to happen. And I love that energy, Philadelphia.
Yes, this was a celebration. This was a celebration leading all the way up to the final out. I completely agree with you. I do think that it's so fun that we've gone from, I would argue, poet to fan, Vin to Hawk to journalist to reporter. But that atmosphere was singular in Philadelphia that day.
All right, let's do another one. And what I think is going to be interesting about this one, and I'm just going to say in advance, this is Philip Humber's perfect game.
Yeah.
Philip Humber was pitching for the Chicago White Sox against the Mariners. The Mariners announcer at the time, Dave Sims. Dave Sims was used by Fox Sports. This was a Saturday afternoon game of the week, and a lot of times Fox uses the local announcers. And so even though Dave Sims is the Mariners announcer, he is calling this game for a national audience when a White Sox pitcher is about to throw a perfect game. And I think I love Dave Sims as a broadcaster, and I remember watching this game live at home myself, and I really enjoyed looking back on it. We put together some of the best moments from the last couple of innings here to share.
Ichiro ground ball. Konerko will take it. Perfect game lives through 7. And again, another economical inning by Philip Humber. There's a 2-2 to Smoke. Struck him out. That's strikeout number 7. Plays Seager, the pitch to left field. Going back to Cielo. And excellent left fielder making the catch out there. Bouncing ball to the second baseman, Beckham. Throws, and a perfect game through 8 for Philip Humber here in Seattle. Right here. Lead off the home ninth. The pitch. Struck him out. Strikeout number 8 for Philip Humber. John Jaso. High pop. Playable. Right field for Rios. He's 1 out away from a perfect game. A day off for him today. But now he's got a chance for something special. He swung. Brzezinski has got to throw it down. It's a perfect game for Philip Humber. On the 21st of April, 2012 in Seattle. The 20th perfect game in regular season history. How about that?
Run to first. Break up the perfect game. That Dave Sims on that final pitch led into it with a chance for something special. Oh, let's go.
I love the phrase perfect game lives through 7. I think that was just a really good phrase, and I think that this would be Look, again, I'm kind of like getting in my own head about like the trolls on Twitter. I mean, 2012, that was like kind of the first year that people really started to get on Twitter and really became part of like you watched the game while sitting there on your phone, tweeting your thoughts and reading the thoughts of everybody else who's watching this game. And so I can see that if Humber did not throw a perfect game, how many White Sox fans would say something like, well, Dave Sims blatantly went out of his way to jinx it, right? He was like trying to jinx it. He did jinx it. You know, he's the Mariners announcer. But no, like Dave Sims is – if you didn't know that he was the Mariners announcer, you would think that he was the White Sox announcer, right? But he also he gave the moment what it deserved, especially on a national audience.
This was exciting. Every single time that he's got the chance to punch, he's punching. He's elevating the moment, and the moment is already really big. That's something that I appreciate about Dave is when he goes big, you feel it. You get goosebumps from it. I completely agree with you. I think this is great as he's continuing to get bigger and bigger as the perfect game nears completion.
I'm going to pause here because I'm really distracted by what's going on out here. Okay. Here's the other thing about the Philip Humber perfect game, and it's very likely that this was done 5th, 6th, 7th innings. There becomes a certain part when it's not Roy Halladay, it's not Clayton Kershaw, it's not Nolan Ryan, and it becomes the story of, wait, who is this guy? Who is this guy that's throwing this no-hitter? And that is very much the case with Philip Humber. I think I've called 3 Philip Humber games back at AAA since this perfect game. And it very much becomes the story of this is a guy who's trying to get back to the big leagues, right? This guy who's been around for a while. He's been up and down guy. He's a guy who's had some injuries. He's bounced all over the place. And, oh, yeah, remember that time he threw a perfect game? And I think that when it is somebody who is not this superstar heading for the Hall of Fame, there's a different level of drama because it's almost like this is the game of his life, right? He's not destined for Cooperstown. He's not going to go to multiple all-star games. This is going to be the defining moment of this person's life. And we are watching it right now, and we are trying to see if he can complete this already improbable task that becomes even more improbable when you're someone who is not destined for Cooperstown.
Yeah, I love it. I love that it can elevate a Wade Miley, a John Means. Everyone has the person in their mind when they threw the no-hitter. You're never going to forget it, even if whatever happens from that point onward. But I was thinking about that, Josh, when it comes to people winning golf majors or tennis majors, where someone makes a run and you go, they might never make a run like this again. I hope they win. This person is in position for history. I want them to get it.
Okay. We have time for one more. Want to do one more?
Yeah, let's do one more.
All right. I want to do one more because the one that we're going to do, this is Bud Smith for the St. Louis Cardinals on September 3rd, 2001. At the time that he threw his no-hitter, it was his 10th career start, his 12th career appearance in the major leagues. He was a rookie. He had just been called up. And I'm going to kind of spoil things here because it happened a long time ago. He only made 11 more starts the rest of his major league career after the no-hitter. And I think that this no-hitter that we're about to watch became one of like the defining moments when the collective wisdom of baseball people thought it's not worth it. It's not worth it to have him try to complete 9 innings of no-hit baseball in the context of his career. He ended up throwing 134 pitches. Like nobody throws more than 115 anymore, right? 120 was kind of the number back then. It was like, well, you don't really want to go over 120, but if you have to. Now it's like no one goes over 115. He threw 134 pitches. And so let's listen as Bob Carpenter and Rick Sutcliffe on ESPN Sunday Night Baseball called this one.
In Langford, he's got it. And here we go to the bottom of the 9th inning. 4-0 St. Louis. Bud Smith, 3 hitters away from the no-hitter. Bud Smith started his night by striking out Ricky Henderson. He's walked Ricky twice. He walked Ray Langford in the second. Not a single San Diego hit. St. Louis leads 4-0, bottom of the ninth inning, as Bud Smith tries to become another Cardinal rookie to throw a no-hitter. Jose Jimenez, 2 years ago, June, did it in Arizona.
Where your concern comes is that physically you're at your lowest level right now. Do you have enough velocity left to get in on that inside part of the plate? We're going to find out right here.
Broken bat grounder. Renteria's got it. 1 out.
Such a tough position for a manager. A career high. This will be the 122nd pitch of the night for Bud Smith. If you leave him out there too long and he hurts himself, as a manager, you'll never forgive yourself. But how do you take him out of this?
1-2 delivery. There's that changeup, and he missed outside with it. Ball 2. Ryan Klesko next. And if there's not a 1-2-3 inning, Phil Nevin, their big right-handed slugger, would bat in this inning. The 3-2 inside, ball 4. Didn't miss by much. Bud Smith with his 4th walk of the night. And now, barring a double play, Nevin bats here in the ninth.
He didn't miss by much, but the problem for Bud Smith is that it took 7 pitches in that at bat, and you don't record the out that you need.
And really, for the first time tonight, Bud Smith laboring a bit. There was a big sequence in the 6th. He had just walked Ricky Henderson. He went 2-0 on Jimenez, who swung and popped it up. And then Bud's been in cruise control ever since. The 2-0, way outside, ball 3.
Klesko 0 for 3 tonight off of Bud Smith, but just 5 days ago, he was 3 for 3 with a towering home run when these two teams hooked up.
Right after we're done here, baseball tonight, we'll hear from Bud Smith. The 3-1 to Klesko. Breaking ball on the inside corner. Klesko gave up on it. It came back and nipped the edge of the plate, and the count goes full.
That completely changes the approach of Ryan Klesko in this at bat. What a big pitch. Probably the best pitch of the night by the kid.
3-2. Ground ball. Shortstop. Tough play. Renteria. 2 down. A tough short hop on the backhand side. It'll be Bud Smith and Phil Nevin with the final out sitting there.
Carp, as we said earlier, just 24 hours ago, Phil Nevin ended the no-hit bid by Randy Johnson. He got a base hit up the middle in the bottom of the 6th inning with 2 outs. There's 2 outs, but it's the bottom of the 9th now.
21-year-old from Torrance, California, Bud Smith, Cardinal rookie, and the hitter, the dangerous Phil Nevin, who's 0 for 3 tonight.
You've got to get smarter as you get deeper into the ball game because physically you weaken. What a pitch. 3-1, a breaking ball to Klesko. 2-0, the changeup to Nevin.
Ground ball. Bud Smith's got it. No hitter for another Cardinal rookie. He threw 2 7-inning no-hitters in the minor leagues. In the big leagues, his rookie year, his 4th major league win, a no-hitter on the road in a pennant race on Labor Day.
There are a couple of different ways that I want to go with this, Josh, and I'm curious where your thoughts go. But the first place that my thoughts go, after a recent traumatic call, my broadcast partner and I sat down to hash it all out, to look at what went right, what went wrong. And something that he pointed out to me was, even though I was calling things great in a vacuum, I was not engaging with his points. He was making excellent points, and I would ignore it and go right into it. I think that's what Bob Carpenter does throughout this half inning. Is he is so locked in, and he's calling really well in a vacuum. But Rick Sutcliffe, every time he speaks, is making a marvelous point that I'm just like, Bob, I just need you to listen. I just need you to engage.
Yeah, I think Sutcliffe is outstanding here. When he gets into that dilemma for the manager, that if he hurts himself, you'll never forgive yourself. But how do you take him out?
Yes.
Right? For perspective on how long ago this was September 3rd, 2001. 9/11 had not happened yet. Right? That's 8 days away before the world was changed forever. Right? The Padres are at Jack Murphy Stadium. I love seeing the palm trees in the background. That's when baseball people had this idea that we're going to put a camera in absolute straightaway center, but so high that it's a terrible angle, right? Yeah, I think that Sutcliffe was great. There was one point that he said you have to be smarter. Yes. He talked about when you're physically, you're not quite there in the ninth inning. This is where former players add things, right? Like this is when they are at their best. And this is Rick Sutcliffe, a former pitcher, like really getting into this is what Tony La Russa is feeling as manager, and this is what Bud Smith has to do. I think that also becomes when that in a vacuum, when two people don't work with each other every single day, right? Bob Carpenter and Rick Sutcliffe don't work together every day, right? They're teaming up for this broadcast on ESPN. And sometimes that chemistry is fantastic. Sometimes it's pretty good. And then sometimes it's, I got an idea of what I want to do, and you got an idea of what you want to do, and we'll see how much they match.
Yeah, we've got our stat that Bob is holding on to. Clearly that's stuck in his mind about, hey, Jose Jimenez 2 years ago, Cardinal rookie. Oh, Bud Smith here, because the second that the no-hitter is complete, he goes right back to that. And that is his headline for the moment. It's a fascinating sort of examination. Once again, it's a national broadcast call. Bud Smith, unless I have this wrong, Josh, is working with an 85-mile-an-hour fastball. Yes. Right, a changeup in the 70s. And that curve was high 60s. Mm-hmm. This guy is just grinding through as best as he can with great stuff that he is commanding. But because the stuff is what it is, I mean, he's just going to walk guys every now and then, and he just has to stay off of barrels. It is a magnificent one-shot performance where how many pitches does he throw in the end?
134.
And
look, you never know why someone's career goes the way it does. I'm not a believer that one outing ever totally changes someone's life, someone's career. But that said, Bud Smith made 3 more starts in 2001. He was not part of their postseason roster. He made 11 starts the following year, had an ERA of 6.94. He was hurt, never pitched again in the major leagues.
Let me try to attack this in the reverse way of Clayton Kershaw. Mm-hmm. Clayton Kershaw's on the mound. Vin Scully's in the broadcast booth going, can Clayton finish this? And we're with Clayton's loved ones. And right, we're with the Dodgers. And it's all about, is Clayton going to finish this? Rick Sutcliffe and everything that he's talking about, it's very much, here is the obstacle in Bud's way. Here's what Ryan Klesko just did against him not all that long ago. Phil Nevin just broke up a no-hitter against Randy Johnson, which I love that from Sut. Here is the danger that this hitter presents in this moment. Here is the newest obstacle in front of Bud.
Yeah, no, those are really good points too. This, and again, I think it goes back to this is how hard it can be to parachute into a game, right? You just don't have that institutional knowledge of watching Clayton Kershaw pitch every 5 days, of watching Mark Buehrle pitch every 5 days, right? You're mostly aware of these guys as you parachute in to call this game.
True, but here's what I'm trying to make as a point. With the Phillies game, as you talked about it, the fans are celebrating. It feels like everybody is there to watch Roy Halladay be a no-hitter pitcher in the postseason to join Don Larsen, right? There's this feeling of this is going to happen, or this feeling with Clayton, this is going to happen. With Hawk, we've had the incredible catch by Dwayne Wise. I think it's such a different tack for a broadcaster to take. And I don't think you should take this tactic for every single no-hitter that you have the chance to call. But we started this by going, can a broadcaster jinx a no-hitter? And I think it's such a brilliant thing to say, he's got a no-hitter going, but here's the guy who's going to try to break it up next. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, and this is a no-hitter in progress. He's this far away, but here's who stands in his way.
When this episode began, we're having fun about, is there a jinx and our t-shirts and everything. And the more that we get through this episode, you know, I'm starting to think about, okay, let's say tonight there's a no-hitter. The Isotopes, my employer, they've never had a no-hitter. Not a 9-inning, not a 7-inning, not a solo, not a combined. There's never been a no-hitter at Isotopes Park, 22 years, right? And so in my mind, the story is that it's never happened before, right? Like that, to me, it doesn't even matter who it is or how many different people. It's, can this seemingly impossible task ever happen? Sort of like when Nomo threw the no-hitter at Coors Field in Denver, right? And then once you've had one, well, now it's no longer the first for the Isotopes or the first at Isotopes Park. Now you start to get into more of like who this pitcher is, right? Those obstacles, as you mentioned, where this pitcher came from, all of the different things that kind of led into it. But in my mind, it's all about, will this thing ever happen? What will it take in order for this no-hitter to ever happen in Albuquerque, New Mexico?
I would argue that was Don Larsen. No one could ever throw a no-hitter in the postseason. And so Don Larsen doing it just shattered it. A no-hitter has been thrown. A perfect game has been thrown in the World Series. And so I would think when I tuned into your call, however you chose to talk about it, however you chose to build up the moment, I would love for you to throw in, here is why it is so difficult to do what he is accomplishing tonight.
I like that. The other thing that occurred to me too is when we see these great catches, especially the Dwayne Wise, it's really easy to say Mark Buehrle has thrown a no-hitter. But in my mind, I'm starting to think about, is the better phrase Mark Buehrle and the Chicago White Sox have no hit the opposition, right? Because it really does become such a team. It's a team game, but especially when there's these plays that get made behind him. Yeah, the name Mark Buehrle, Roy Halladay, Clayton Kershaw is always going to be attached. But even the image of A.J. Ellis, you know, ready to run through a wall in order to do anything that he can to try to make this catch of his best friend and teammate, and just how much of it really is a team accomplishment and how we could use those words into those final moments.
You and I did a previous show about no-hitters. And something that I love that you pointed out is the whole idea of don't go to commercial, take your time, set it all up. And then mentioning that Vin Scully in the ninth of a no-hitter, what would he always do?
Reset the defense and the time,
the
calendar.
Defense, right? To go through each of those guys, to go through the 3 outfielders, to go through the 4 infielders, to tell you the catcher, like resetting, here is everyone around to try to help bring this thing to the finish line.
Yeah, it's worth repeating. If you have the ability to not go to commercial, do not go to commercial. Like just spend that 90 seconds setting it all up, giving all the historical implications of it, and take your time. I mean, there's times that I come back in like extra innings and I'm worried, wait a minute, what happens if the first pitch is a home run and we miss it, you know, coming back. So yeah, if you can avoid it, do not go to commercial.
And understand, and let's get to the main thesis of broadcaster as Jinx, to the whole idea of what is the role? What is our role in calling this? And I think that as we've gone through this, we've seen broadcasters take on different roles to say, we are not the spoiler. We are not the jinxer. We are not the person who is seeking to ruin this for everybody who's tuned in. We are here celebrating this alongside of you to see if this can happen. And so to that end, whether we supply the historical context, whether we are the fans screaming in the booth, that there is an important role for us to play to add to the moment.
Yeah. Man, I want to call a no-hitter now.
Well, I want you to.
I mean, I did before, but I really want to call one now.
Yeah, I want you to. I want you to get to that moment where you are there and you're right alongside you and the crowd and the dugout and the bullpen and everybody who's tuned into your broadcast. You are as one, seeing if this can become a reality.
Yeah. So cool.
Do you remember? So Roy Halladay and Brian Anderson starts to get to this point. Do you remember that one of the chief storylines that year in the national media was, is it too easy to throw a no-hitter in baseball today?
That's right.
That was a constant talking point. It's become too easy. It's way too easy in baseball to throw a no-hitter. Nah, it's still hard.
It's still really hard. But I do think that there's the power of when you see somebody else do it, it makes you realize I can do this too.
Yes. Yeah.
So I do think they come in waves.
And what do you do when the opportunity is there in front of you?
Don't mess it up.
No, don't be like that, because that was me back in the day going, I'm trying to be too perfect. Nah, man.
Yeah, just enjoy the moment. Yeah, I like that. Enjoy the moment. Describe what you see. Put yourself in the dugout. Put yourself on the mound. Put yourself as the catcher. Put yourself as the shortstop. Put yourself as the umpire. Put yourself in other people's shoes and just describe what you're seeing in the stands, on the field, everywhere.
Yeah. As Brian Anderson said, nothing is routine. Mm-hmm. And that includes the broadcast. That is not routine.
Yep. All right, Jesse, take us away.
For Josh Suchon, the voice of the Albuquerque Isotopes, I'm Jesse Goldberg-Strassler. Thanks so much for tuning in. I'm voice of the Lansing Lugnuts. Don't worry about us. We've been no-hit. We've thrown no-hitters. Josh is going to get there. This has been Crafting the Call, and we do not jinx a thing.